Okay, we're gonna move on to the topic of water. So currently, our water bills do not reflect negative impacts on the environment. Do you think our water rate should include an environmental tax to go towards restoration or other conservation efforts? If so, how would you go about implementing it? We'll start with you, Ms. Kater.
Well, that is the first time I've heard of, I've been asked that question, so I'm thinking. But I think it would be something we would have to think through, because I think it would have a huge impact on our residents. And I mean, I think in theory it's important, it makes sense. But I also think there's been a lot of controversy about the current water rate situation, and so I think before we implemented another change like that, we would just want to look at that idea, study it, and have a lot of community input to see what the thoughts were on that. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you.
So I represent Tempe on the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association board, and so I think about this issue a lot. And I know that our inclining block structure is essentially a pricing signal to conserve, and we have to operate within the bounds of an enterprise fund. So water is an enterprise fund. We have to have the same money coming in as comes out. And we've been in a deficit, but we're in good shape right now. But the idea of an environmental tax, we prefer to look at an inclining block structure, which is a robust process. It's not some simple multiplier. We looked at each level, each block to say, what does someone using, it was a third of an acre, what do they need? If they have trees and a pool and mesic, we gave the most liberal version of what kind of water they needed. And to really accurately reflect the cost of producing and distributing that water to that specific block. So if you're paying for over 40,000 gallons of water, you're paying for the cost. The additional cost for anything over 40,000 is that additional cost that you're bringing to the system. So I think it's important to conserve. That's why we have smart water meters where you'll get notified if you have a leak. I had a leak $500 this summer. It was very painful. If I had the water meters all calibrated, and they will be by the end of this year, I would have been notified of that leak and I could have stopped it in its tracks. So that's why we need to conserve in different ways. An environmental tax I don't think is necessarily the right way, considering our water is mostly from SRP, and when the electric ratepayers subsidize the water. So our water is actually historically, and it's historically much cheaper than many areas of the country. And we're not going to change that formula very easily with SRP, because SRP was founded to benefit farmers and to water agricultural lands. So I think we need to look and make our instrument, our water rate study, which was done over the course of a year, thorough public process. We did focus groups with all sorts of our residents, and we need to go forward that way.
Yeah, if we wanted to institute an environmental tax, there'd have to be a lot of public input and a whole bunch of rates and studies for me to be on board to go ahead with that. I'd have to have all sorts of data in front of me to be like, this is a great idea. And I'd have to hear from the constituents saying, this is a great idea. As Lauren mentioned, that our waters are being subsidized through our electric rates with SRP. And that's where we're getting the water from, and where we're getting the breaks on the discount with the water. So I think, like, on top of all the controversy behind the tier system and anything like that, if we made like another drastic change and adding some sort of environmental tax on top of what we already have right now, I think there'd be a lot of upset residents, and I think that's fair unless we have a very long and robust conversation about it. But obviously, that's not a decision I'd feel comfortable making tonight at this table in like a 30-second discussion about it. Like, it'd have to have a lot of public input for sure.
Yes, I don't think any council would make a decision like that without a tremendous amount of public input. And part of that, again, part of that conversation has to be, what is the current situation that we're in, and educating about why we need this. You have to start with why in some of these conversations. So Lauren mentioned the increasing infrastructure costs, the things that nobody sees. They expect to turn on their faucet and for water to come out. And in some cases, the water use is much higher for some people, and we need additional infrastructure to get that water to them. So So that's where I think some of the incentivizing conservation comes into play, but it really requires a lot of communication from the city to why we need something. And I just think that, again, open and transparent processes is part of what will make the city great. And it will, if we communicate more with residents, if we knock on the doors of the communities that we're not hearing from, because this is something we see right now, we have to be, a city council member's job is to connect with the community, right? And to make to listen to the community, the best decisions are made that way. So we bring that information back here, we have further conversations, and then we make decisions based on good data and you know, the will of the community. But sometimes we have to leaders lead, and sometimes you have to make decisions for the long-term sustainability of your community, and it's not always going to be popular with everyone. And that's something that every leader, no matter where they are, is going to have to deal with, and that's a mark of a good leader, I think.
I'm against another tax. In my opinion, we already have a tax with the tiered water rate system that's too severe for the large property owners. We need to be very careful to not continue to punish them. They do have $1,000 water bills. I've knocked on thousands of doors, and I've heard this independently over and over again, and it's not acceptable. When those people bought the large lots, they did so under the guise that they would be supported, and they also were encouraged to plant grass and a lot of trees. So now we're turning around and punishing them for that. So we need to be really careful. Also, we need to take care of the water quality. We've had water quality issues. We had water quality issues all last summer. So we need to take care of our water and make sure it's safe to drink and shower in. And we also need to improve our infrastructure. And for example, our water hydrants have not been working when the firefighters have gone to fires at times. So we need to really make sure that we're improving the fire hydrants and increasing the safety. Thank you.
Thank you so much.